Good morning, everyone. My name is Anna. I'm a wife of an addict in recovery, and I'm also recovering myself from codependency. Good Sunday morning. Today's live is going to be further on boundaries, but it's going to go into a topic that I think really needs to be discussed. I think we do tend to forget about this, or because boundaries have come into our lives because of addiction, I think our mind just super focuses on it needs to be about addiction. And I'm going to tell you why that really hurts us. And also, we're always asking, how can we support our loved ones? When we don't understand this, it's not helping our loved one in an all-around way, if that makes sense. Good morning, Amanda. So why don't we go right in, and what do I mean by that? Now, I do have a past live that I did that was basically expressing that, remember, it's not even about the addiction in the first place. It's about the behaviors in which the addiction causes. And I'm going to give you kind of a little, let's see if you feel the same way. Now, our loved one that suffers with addiction, the reason why we don't like the addiction is because of what addiction causes, correct? However, that's what I really want to talk about. If addiction did not come with the behaviors in which it did, I don't think anyone would have a problem with addiction. And what do I mean by that? If addiction didn't cause unmanageability, meaning if someone could use and drink and still absolutely be there for their family and their kids, that no money would go missing, that they could use their money in a reasonable way, that they still kept their job and there was no hurt and pain that the families and friends felt because of that. There was no lying, there was no sneaking around, there was no yelling, there was no disconnecting, there was no isolation. You just had somebody that used a substance. However, they were always there mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually for everyone around them. I don't think anyone would ever have a problem with addiction. However, unfortunately, when someone suffers with addiction, these are the behaviors that they will exhibit because it is a symptom of their disease. And for me, that's why I think a lot of the times we get into this insanity and this pain, this trauma and hurt, that we don't recognize that this has more to do with just addiction. But because it came into our lives because of addiction, we hyper focus on, okay, so my life is a living hell because of the addiction, and I need to hold boundaries around this addiction. Now, granted, yes, if someone did not have the addiction, these behaviors would not happen. However, my point is being made of that if addiction did not cause these behaviors, we would not have a problem with it. So where should we really be holding the boundaries around? Should we be holding boundaries just around use? Or should we be holding boundaries around the behaviors in which use causes? Okay? So and the reason why this goes even further, guys, is because when our loved ones are in early recovery, the substance is no longer there. And that's why I think a lot of us get into this, well, what do we do now? I can't hold boundaries now, right? Because they're not using. And if I hold these boundaries, doesn't this upset them? Doesn't this get them mad? And then don't they get triggered? And then don't they go out and use? Okay, here's the thing. Our loved ones need to learn how to navigate this life without a substance. And that means the behaviors that they exhibit after the substance is gone. The same for us as loved ones with our codependency. We need to learn how to navigate this world when our loved one's in early recovery without our codependency. All right? So for me, I just really want to put this out there that I really do believe a lot of the times we really just associate boundaries to drug or drink use, not around the behaviors that come from the actual use. And I think that's why a lot of the times we have a hard time of holding those boundaries, especially if our loved one later on gets early recovery or gets recovery. We're very nervous to hold these boundaries. So why don't we start right in the beginning so we start gaining that confidence and understanding that this is actually what boundaries look like, and we need to hold this for our own sanity, and it actually is the healthiest thing for our loved one. Good morning, Julie. Good morning, Sean, Elaine, and Richard. Good morning, Sheila, Maria, Rebecca. Good morning, Ebru. Good morning, Marie. So this is a live, guys, that I really do find very, very important because we do tend to only hold boundaries around the use. And I see it a lot, and it's a lot of questions that I get. But where do I hold boundaries, Anna? Or, but now they're not using. What do I hold boundaries around now? What are my boundaries going to look like? And I know this is a very hard one. However, we need to start learning how to hold these boundaries around the behaviors. Now, you may be going, what does that mean, Anna, around the behaviors? Because I feel still that it really hurts when my loved one is in active addiction. Okay, again, you are feeling the insanity and the pain, not because the actual use and consumption of the drug or the drink. You are feeling the insanity and the pain in which the addiction causes these unhealthy behaviors. So what we need to do is we need to start holding boundaries around these behaviors to protect yourself. When you protect yourself more, the more sane you will feel, the more confident you will start to feel. And that way, yes, we're also going to hold boundaries around the actual use, but we also need to hold boundaries around the behaviors. What does that mean? Of course, we know if someone comes home high or drunk, we hold the boundary with that, right? The person just came home high or drunk, so what can a boundary look like? So for the boundary for me and Mitchell, generally it looks something like this. Mitchell, if you come home high or drunk, I'm not going to talk to you when you come home. Okay? The reason why that's a boundary, Mitchell has a choice if he wants to come home high or drunk or not. If he chooses to come home high or drunk, my choice is I don't want that in my life because I notice that it causes me more trauma and insanity, and I'm not going to go into that. All right? Another one that I might do is, Mitchell, if you come home high or drunk, I'm going to sleep in the bedroom upstairs. Again, why did I do that? Because I'm going to protect myself. At the same time, every single time Mitchell comes home high or drunk, I still usually will have the same exact boundary. It will either be one or of those two. I continue to hold it, which allows more of the possibility for our loved one to not actually just hear it, but to actually see it. He continues just to see one thing instead of my boundaries being inconsistent or all over the place. That's why, guys, with the behavior, you really want to choose either just one would be honestly best, one or two, the same choice every single time. It makes it easier to digest, and it makes it way easier to be seen, because if we keep going, well, if you come home high or drunk, I'm going to do this. If you come home high or drunk, I'm going to do that. If you come home, no, that doesn't help. What helps our loved ones when they're in that addiction is seeing that if I choose this, this is always going to be what my loved one does. So if it happens 10 times, and 10 times we are consistent with our boundary, and we consistently give the same answer, it makes way more of a possibility of our loved one to actually see what their choices are doing, rather than it being all over the place. So that's the first step, guys. When we go a little bit further into what behaviors we're about to talk about, really try hard to only have one choice for each one of those behaviors. Heck, you can honestly have one choice for all the behaviors if you actually want to, okay? But the key to boundaries is keeping the same. If you choose this, I will choose this. Always try to have the same there, because that really enacts more of the possibility that they will see what their choice causes, okay? Because think about it in our way. If we're doing something over and over, but someone keeps telling us a different thing each time, are we more apt to hearing it, or actually are we more apt to getting irritated or frustrated? Because we can't catch up to what someone really wants. Okay, so that's what we're doing for our loved one that's an addiction. This is really for the true individual. We're saying no to the boundary. We're saying no to the addict, but the consistent boundary might reach the true individual to continue realizing, if I do this, This is the same thing each time, okay? Now, so we know that we're going to hold it around the actual use or not. But what am I talking about when I say we need to kind of stop just focusing just on the addiction? Because again, it goes back to the addiction causes these behaviors. So our loved one exhibits these behaviors, and the behaviors are what make our loved one, what make I just saw Jen. Hi, Jen. Thank you for the stars. My mind went, whoo, thank you very much, Jen. So what it is the behaviors is what causes life to be unmanageable. Okay? It's the addiction that the behaviors come from it, and the behaviors are what make life unmanageable. So how do we help our loved one see that their addiction is causing unmanageability? Not by just holding a boundary around if you use or not, but around the behaviors in which it exhibits. Okay? What is that going to look like? So let's do one more further right now. You know me, you know one of my biggest things is to separate the addict from the true individual. I think that is massively important. So guys, if you can in the comments, just for everyone else to get an idea that someone might be new to this, is what is she talking about? The true individual and the addict. Can you write down, because unfortunately this is usually the easiest thing to do first, is can you write down what does the addict feel like to you? What are some behaviors that the addict exhibits that may hurt you or make you feel uncomfortable or you feel like you have anxiety? What are some behaviors that you know are unhealthy in which the addict causes? So let's do it right now. Let's separate the addict from the true individual, okay? So for me, what the addict looked like, the addict was very manipulative. The addict would gaslight, and what that would look is constantly not listening to me and trying to put their own perspective in that would make me question my own perception of reality, okay? I would wonder, did I just tell it the right way? I would wonder, are my feelings what I really just thought they were? Am I overreacting? That's gaslighting, okay? So there was a lot of manipulation. There was gaslighting, as Heidi Heidi, you wrote down, absolutely agree with you. Lying, another one for me was sneaking around, being dishonest, not telling the entire truth, withholding information, irritability, defensiveness, yelling. Okay, Erin just wrote defensiveness, irritability, anger, lying, gaslighting. Okay, so these are behaviors of the addict. So for me, this is what the addict is in my life, okay? The addict is, I'm going to use some of Erin's, defensive, irritable, angry, lying, gaslighting. Heidi even said lying. The manipulation and more. Those were a lot of the hurtful behaviors. I'll actually say this one too. The inconsistency, expressing one thing but not following through with an action. That is how I lost a lot of trust. Saying they will be somewhere, but they never showed up or never showing up at the right time. So these are a lot of behaviors of the addict. Now, who is the true individual? Okay? If you can, list behaviors of the true individual. So now I will tell you, who's my Mitchell? My Mitchell is somebody that if I am hurt, he will sit down with me and he will listen to me. He will not just listen to me, he will validate me. Mitchell is an extremely kind person, caring person. Now, I'm going to go a little bit further in this because this is for early recovery. Mitchell is irritable, and I know that we express, well, the addict's irritable. Here's the thing, though. There are going to be some behaviors that the addict exhibits that our true individual loved one does have, and it's a character flaw. Just like I have my own character flaws as well. It does not mean that I'm the codependent. It's an Anna thing. However, what's different is Mitchell takes accountability for his irritability. However, he's going to express it. I don't do it alone, Anna. I need you to still hold boundaries if it affects you because it helps me see my irritability. Okay, and this is the reason why we're going to go further into why it's important to hold boundaries, not just around actual drug use or not, but the behaviors. This will really help our loved one, not just in active addiction to see, oh my God, my life is unmanageable. But this will also help our loved one in early recovery start to see, hey, you know what, this might be something that I need to work on, okay? Same as us of why we have our own support system. Am I a bit controlling? Yep. Can I be irritable? Yep. Can I pout if I don't get my way? Yep. Okay, so these are my character flaws also that I need to work on myself. So Heidi and Erin, I saw you wrote again too. Loving, trustworthy, present, kind, present, and accountability for yours. I love it. Troy, good morning. Addict named Troy Wise, Louisville, Kentucky. My sobriety date is 2/12/24. Awesome, Troy. I want to make a deep personal commitment to stay clean and sober just for today. Absolutely awesome, Troy. Welcome to be here too. One of the things, guys, I really do love about We Are Recovery is it's both sides. And I really think everything that we're expressing today, that's why if you catch me sometimes when I'm talking about, okay, we're specifically talking about how we can love or help our loved one in addiction, I like to go, but this is also what the codependent needs to work on. Because I really believe all these lives, no matter what side you're on, they're beneficial for us to really look inwards to ourselves and go, are we doing these things? Because we need to remember, even when we're talking about someone of how we can help someone in active addiction, that is key of how we can challenge ourselves so that we can grow ourselves, because this stuff is not easy for us too. So I'm glad all of you guys are on. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Tara. Good morning, Virginia. Good morning, Jennifer. Good morning, Wendy. So guys, ready? Now this is what we're going to do. So we separate the addict from the true individual. The addict is the one that gaslights, is manipulative, that sneaks around, lies, untrustworthy, very defensive, a lot of anger, irritability, says one thing but doesn't follow through. The true individual is kind, caring, loving, attentive. Okay? So when we start seeing the behaviors in which we just expressed about the addict, these are actually, guys, the very things that we need to hold boundaries around. Not just about if you use or not. And why is this actually so important? Because here's the reality I found later on about life. I don't just hold boundaries around the addict or my husband. There are people out there in life I also need to hold boundaries around. And not everyone out there is an addict. I need to learn how to do my hards, because there are going to be people that come into my life that may lie to me for certain reasons that are their own, but that does not mean that I need to take someone lying towards me. I may have someone that comes again into my life that raises their tone and wants to control and yell because of other things that they may have hard, that they do have hard inside their lives. But that's not my responsibility to fix, but it is my responsibility to tell someone how I want to be treated. There will be people in my lives that will say one thing and not follow through. I have the right to hold boundaries, just like someone has the right to hold boundaries to me when I say I'm going to do something, just because I have the best intention in the world to follow through, but I don't do it. Anybody in my life has the right to go, Anna, you said you would do this and you didn't follow through. And even if that does oh God, that makes me feel bad. That wasn't somebody's intention to make me feel bad. That was somebody's intention to tell me how my choices affect another person. And good on them to challenge me. Because if they don't do that and I don't have that pang of hurt, where is that hurt coming from? That hurt's coming from is because, you know what, I really do want to follow through my word and I really care about this individual. So that's mine to work through. So again, guys, I think too many times what does happen is, because we come into the world of learning about boundaries, generally why everyone's on here right now is because we love someone in addiction. We start to associate that information and knowledge of boundaries are for addiction. And what we don't realize is, no, boundaries are for everyday life. Okay? We actually need to tell people how to treat us. All right? Because we're all walking around in this world generally trying to do the best we can with the knowledge we have. Okay? And so what we need to remember is, even people that don't have addiction or codependency, here's the good thing. we need to remember to challenge other people by challenging ourselves. We're not just going around and going, you know what, I need to challenge you, I need to challenge you, I need to challenge you. No, it first comes, ooh, I need to challenge Anna because I don't want to hold this boundary. Then that sometimes have a ripple effect to challenging other people. Heidi, what are two good boundaries to start with? For me, mine definitely was thinking about the one that hurt me the most. If you say you're going to do something and you don't follow through. Okay, so what my boundary would look like is if Mitchell came up and said, all right, I'll be home by 2 o'clock. I will reiterate and go, what I heard you say is you'll be home by 2 o'clock. Yes. Okay, so then I say, if you do not come home by 2 o'clock, I am going to leave without you. So 2 o'clock hits. Mitchell's not home by 2, and don't get me wrong, of course I'd stay for another 5 to 10 minutes to see. I'm a codependent, okay? I'd stay. Guess what? Mitchell didn't show up. What I needed to start doing consistently is get in that car and leave. Okay? Now, I know what everyone's going to say. Yeah, but Anna, then when you come back, they flip out on you. Yes, they do. I am going to validate you immensely because yes, they do. Why? Because before they benefited of you not holding boundaries. They benefited on us enabling them. They didn't have to feel the hard emotions inside of themselves by not following through with their word. So what they are going to do in that moment is they do not like that you are now starting to get stronger and have confidence in yourself. Active addiction, the addict does not like that because now it cannot have its way and its drugs too. It needs to now, and this is why it's so important. The true individual now has more of the possibility to go, do I really want to do this? And when we keep holding it consistently, it really starts having more of the possibility to go into the true individual that's really deep in there, to start really seeing, oh my God, they're serious. If I continue using this substance, I may not have my family. Now, I admit it, guys, the first time you start really holding boundaries around these behaviors, yes, you are going to have the addict, not the true individual, you are going to have the addict so mad at you. Like, let's be blunt and let's be honest and let's be real that you know what is going to occur and happen. But you need to remember the reason why the addict is throwing a temper tantrum is because before you lacked the strength and confidence in yourself to hold these hard boundaries. Your fears took over, your insecurities took over, your feelings of unworthiness took over, so you did not hold these. But now, because you have a support system, right? You start holding these boundaries. This is, again, why it's important to have a support system. Because when you do hold the right boundaries, which right to me means healthy boundaries for actually your loved one, and you go, hey, this is what you said you're going to do. If you don't follow through, this is my choice, whatever your choice is going to be. For me, it usually was leaving, or it was, I need to disconnect, okay? So I get the yelling of the addict. How dare you do that? I was only 5 minutes late. I can't believe you didn't leave, you didn't wait another 5 minutes. I would have waited for you. How selfish are you? You know, all that stuff. And of course, it hit home. I felt selfish. I felt horrible. But then when I reached out my support system and they said, you're not selfish. Actually, let's think about it this way. Who's really selfish? Who's actually really selfish right now? You actually told the person, hey, what I heard you say was you're going to be home by 2, right? Yes, I did say that. Okay. And did that person agree of being home at 2? Yes, they did. Okay. And so what I hear you saying is you made an agreement with that person. That person told you they would be home by 2. You waited 5 to 10 minutes. They still weren't there. So you decided to do what you actually did tell them ahead of time too, is I'm going to leave out without you. And they said yes to it, right? Yes. And you left. Right? Yes. So who's the selfish one here? Is it actually you? Because you communicated in a healthy way and let your partner know what you were doing. You actually reiterated it and you both agreed upon it. And your partner didn't follow through on his word of coming home at 2. So what did he expect you to do? To continue waiting on him and wasting his time? Your time? Sounds like entitlement right there, doesn't it? Entitlement, that's pretty selfish. So who's actually the selfish one in this? Is it actually you? No. And now you have the selfish person throwing everything at you, trying to make you feel selfish so that you lose again the power struggle and you start lacking confidence in yourself. And what happens when you start lacking confidence in yourself? Come on, family members, be absolutely honest out there. What happens? The boundary that we initially held, what? We start retracting it. We start taking that boundary back in because we start believing that we're doing something wrong. Oh, and what continues to happen in the insanity cycle? The addict's pretty happy with us again. Wait, what? The addict's happy with us because we're not growing? The addict's happy with us because now we're lacking confidence in ourselves? The addict's happy again because we don't feel that power that we have and there's a struggle inside of us? Wait a second, that doesn't sound right, doesn't it? Because the person that really loves us in a healthy way, wouldn't they want us to grow? Wouldn't they want us to heal? Wouldn't they want us to find that confidence in ourselves and have that determination to tell somebody in our life that hurting us and saying, no, you cannot do that to me. This is why it is important, guys, that we hold boundaries around the behaviors and not just around the active use. Okay? Because it is important for us to understand where we stand. Okay? And for me, the other one would be, where would it be helpful to hold boundaries? For me, it was around yelling, raising of the tone. So when the addict started to yell at me, I would start to express, I want to have this discussion with you. However, if you continue to yell at me, I am going to leave this conversation. Okay? And then what did that look like? If the addict continued yelling at me, I would disengage from the conversation. Now, of course, here's the thing, guys, and here's the important part with this piece with holding boundaries, okay? Once we say our boundaries, guys, we need to disconnect right there. Too many times what happens is we try to over-explain our boundaries. You know what that does? That continues the debate with the addict. There is no debate to your boundaries. Your boundaries are your boundaries. Too many times what I hear happen, and this is what happened to me as well, I would tell Mitchell, if you don't come home at this time, I choose to leave. Well, now, here we go. Here's the fight. The fight ensues. I can't believe you're so selfish, and blah, 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 blah. That all comes out. I would engage with the addict. I'm not selfish. You're selfish. You did this. That doesn't help the addict just go, what just happened? What happened was, I didn't show up at the time. My loved one goes without me. No, what they start getting is all this other blah, 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 blah stuff on. So they start forgetting about the boundary. Okay? So what is most important too, also when we hold the boundary, guys, we disconnect. Okay? We go take time for ourselves. And if you have to say that and go, this is my boundary and it is a non-negotiable, I'm going to go take time for me. And if they keep going, you go find a safe place for yourself. You walk away. You do not continue to engage in the addict. That is what the addict wants. That is what the addict thrives on, is your responses. Okay? And not the responses in a boundary. It thrives on the responses of a continued argument to see if it can find the way that's going to either piss you off or make you really upset and go, oh, maybe I am being selfish. So the most important thing is to disengage. You do not have to over-explain your boundary to someone who's being selfish and entitled. Okay? You need to hold your boundary. Your boundary is important. I'm telling your boundary is healthy, and you need to disconnect because that will also help your loved one have more of a possibility to see just, this is what someone said, and this is the response. Because again, I want you to think about it. If someone continues to say more and more words at you, more and more conversation, more and more this, do you sometimes forget what that person was actually saying in the beginning? You do, don't you? So that is, again, why boundaries need to be short, concise, and they need to be consistent. Okay? And when the addict starts throwing the temper tantrum, which they will, you have every single right to disconnect. You do not need to over-explain your boundaries. What you just need to say is, if you choose this, this is my choice, and then disconnect. Go reach out to your support system so that you can start understanding and really hearing and retraining your brain that you're actually not doing something wrong. So this is why it's so important, guys. We really need to get out of that mindset of we just need to hold boundaries around active use or not. No, boundaries need to be held around every unhealthy behavior in which the addict exhibits. Why? Because when your loved one does choose recovery, unfortunately, in early recovery, they will still exhibit a lot of behaviors in which the addict had, but they are no longer the addict. So if we've started learning confidence of holding boundaries around, if you yell at me, if you continue just to be irritable to me and you're not listening, if I feel like you're defensive and you're not listening to me, if I feel like you're lying again, if I feel like you're saying one thing and not following through. We hold boundaries around those behaviors also in early recovery. Why? Because it is actually important and healthy to do with our loved one in early recovery, because it helps them navigate early recovery in a more easy way, even if it brings about hards. If we do not hold those boundaries, I'm telling you right now, it leads more to the possibilities of the addict coming back out, because we're not doing what do you need actually in a relationship. Do you want trust? Sure. Okay, well, if you want trust, then you have to tell your loved one, right? Thank you, thumbs up. I know it's because I was holding this one up. It is ready. If you want trust, what does trust mean? Trust means following through with what they say, doesn't it? So if we lack a boundary with that and we don't hold it, isn't it kind of part of our responsibility if all of a sudden they just keep doing this over and over? We're not speaking up for ourselves and saying, this is what we need. Okay? So that's why it's important to hold boundaries around, and I know this is hard, guys, because yes, our loved one that's no longer the addict will probably get defensive. That's a normal thing for us as loved ones. For anybody. Usually when someone points something out in us that's a flaw, we get defensive. However, if they have a support system and we go, okay, I'm going to use an example. And Mitchell and I will come on and talk about this one together at one point. Mitchell, you did express to me that after the lapse, you were going to follow through with therapy. I've only seen you go in one, and it's been 2 months. Mitchell did get very defensive. He got very upset. And we will come on, the both of us, and talk about how we work through that later. Okay? However, that was scary and nervous for me because I had not seen that reaction from Mitchell in a very long time. I really went into trauma. However, what I did when I realized trauma was coming up to the surface is I said pause. So we still had time to think about it. Later on, when Mitchell came and did apologize for the behaviors that he exhibited, what did he do afterwards? He said, well, I realize what you were trying to say to me, Anna, is just because my mind goes, I am going to do it. Your mind goes, just because you're going to do it, my mind goes, when? Okay? And so when Mitchell came to me, he said, I already have another appointment scheduled. So Mitchell's mind saw it as, I'm going to do this. I am going to do it. Just not yet. But mine's going, okay, you said you're going to do it. I need you to do it like now or very soon. So we had two different where our minds were at. So that argument needed to happen. I needed to hold the boundary in which you just heard me say. You said you were going to do something and you didn't. Okay? And the thing was, is if Mitchell didn't follow through, then yes, Mitchell knows, and that's what we talked about there, I'm going to disconnect because I'm going to start getting nervous. So I need you guys to really see, because that's something I really need to see, it shouldn't just be around the use or not. We really need to hold it around the behaviors that affect us. So what would be a good activity to do or a challenge for you guys to do? If you'd like to take it later on today when you find some time for yourself, And you absolutely can come back to this live or message me later, or even go into the We Are Recovery private support group for family members and post what your lists are. What are some behaviors that the addict does that really hurts you? Write those down, and maybe all together we can come up with some boundaries of what to hold around those behaviors. All right. But I am going to end it here, guys. I know I went a lot over the time that I said we will. So I love you guys very much. I hope this was a beneficial live. I hope this really shared why it is important to hold boundaries, not just around the drug use or not. I love you guys very much, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Remember to do some self-care for you. All right. Bye, guys.